Haters trying to hate say our strats ain't great, but I asked you, when's the last time your favorite strategy guide site took down a strat with hundreds of thousands of views making that big crazy stupid ridiculous YouTube money, just to bring you the new correct and updated version? Skip the exceptionally well written Emmy Grammy nominated jokes. This that official LearntoRaid.com Shannox 25 video strategy guide with the real strat. Keep wiping to the trash, haters. Shannox is a one-phase fight consisting of a main boss and 2 ads. You'll have to do a bit of ad control followed by a short burn. Shannox has around 80 million HP, and each of his dogs, Rageface and Riplimb, have around 33 million. You'll want to bring 2 to 3 tanks, 5 to 7 healers, and a balanced mix of DPS. Let's get to the abilities. We'll start with the big dog, Shannox. That might be confusing. We'll start with the Salamander. Shannox cannot be taunted. His main ability throughout the fight is his traps. He will constantly drop and shoot crystal prison traps and immolation traps around the area. Crystal prison traps will immobilize triggering players in a block of solid crystal. Other raid members will need to DPS the crystal in order to break it and free this player. Immolation trap will afflict his target with a mild fire dot and increase their fire damage taken for a short period. Both of the ads in this fight, Rageface and Riplimb, can trigger the traps. Shannox has a unique cleave called Arcing Slash. It will deal high melee damage in a wide arc in front of the boss. Additionally, his main aggro target will gain the Jagged Tear debuff. This is a mild physical dot that stacks with each application. Periodically throughout the fight, Shannox will use Hurl Spear to throw his weapon to Riplimb. When the weapon lands, it will deal very high physical damage to any players it strikes directly, and moderate fire damage to all players within 50 yards. In addition to this, molten eruptions will occur in a circular pattern around the spear. Avoid the damage from these by moving off of the flame patterns on the ground. Finally, as long as Riplimb is alive, he will stop attacking to retrieve the spear for Shannox. Killing one of the boss's dogs will send him into a frenzy, increasing his damage and attack speed. This affects stacks per dog. Additionally, he will no longer hurl his spear and will instead drive it straight into the ground beneath him. All normal spear effects will still occur. Now we'll cover his Hellhounds. Riplimb and Rageface have a primary ability each and must be handled uniquely throughout the encounter. Riplimb's primary attack is called Limb Rip. This single target ability deals high physical damage to the dog's primary aggro target and afflicts them with the same Jagged Tear debuff as the boss's Arcing Slash. Rageface will use Face Rage to jump on a random player and uncontrollably claw them. It will deal increasing damage as it goes on, and he will not stop until hit with a single high damage attack. Both dogs can use Frenzied Devotion, an ability that increases their damage and movement speed greatly if they are not dead when Shannox's health reaches 30%. Rageface will switch targets randomly throughout the fight and cannot be tanked. Riplimb is not tauntable. So, how do you take this all down? Before even starting the fight, clear yourself a nice little area to work with. You have to down trash to get Shannox to spawn anyway. You might as well down the trash that's in the way. The main challenge of the fight is resetting the Jagged Tear debuff on your tanks. There are a few ways to do this, but we'll be covering what we feel is the most consistent. On the pull, have your main tank pick up Shannox and have your off tank pick up Riplimb. Rageface will be left untanked, but have ranged DPS begin the fight on him while melee begin the fight on Shannox. Assign 2 healers to the main tank and 1 healer to the off tank. This leaves at least 2 healers for the raid and Rageface. Feel free of course to play with the exact placement of healers, and if your raid brought more, it may feel even more lenient. Positioning is key during the fight. The 2 tanks must keep their mobs around 40 yards apart. Shannox will stack Jagged Tear on the main tank with his Arcing Slash ability, while Riplimb will stack Jagged Tear on the off tank using his Limb Rip ability. Shannox cannot stack this debuff when he is not holding his spear, and Riplimb cannot stack his debuff when he is not attacking. Each time Shannox throws his spear, Riplimb will stop attacking to return it to him. This is why the distance between the mobs is so important. The longer it takes Riplimb to return his master's spear, the more time each tank has to allow their debuff to wear off. Additionally, because the dogs can trigger the traps, your off tank should try to always make sure there is a crystal prison trap between himself and the boss. Riplimb will run through the trap when returning the spear and be frozen for a short duration. This will make it even easier to reset the tank's debuffs. While all of this is going on, ranged DPS should go all out on Rageface. The idea is for ranged to simply kill off Rageface as quickly as possible, as to not risk having a random raid member killed off with his face rage ability. Killing him so early will cause Shannox to go into his half frenzy sooner, but freeing up the healers from Rageface will allow them to redirect their healing to the main tank instead. All players will of course need to avoid traps, but when possible, try to use immolation traps on Rageface. Crystal Prison Traps should be saved for Riplimb, retrieving the spear, as using them on Rageface will lower the DPS you do to him. Rageface should die off somewhat early. After this occurs, have your ranged DPS switch to Riplimb while melee continues to stay on Shannox. Do not bring the boss below 30% while Riplimb is still alive. If there is a chance that Shannox will go below 30%, simply stop DPS and redirect it to Riplimb instead. Ideally, your raid should kill Riplimb while Shannox is at around 35%. After this occurs, switch all DPS to the boss, use Hero or Lust, and prepare to burn the boss down quickly. Without tank swapping, which may not be realistic this late in the fight, there will be almost no way for the main tank to reset Jagged Tear stacks. Healers will need to pump plenty of healing into the tank and the raid. Make sure to roll cooldowns throughout the end of the fight. Each time a spear is plunged, the raid should have a cooldown available. Use tranks or hymns to fill the gaps when possible. Just direct additional healing to the main tank. If available, roll tank cooldowns toward the end of the fight. Guardian Spirit, Pain Suppression, and Sack are all very useful for surviving the Jagged Tear stacks when combined with the tank's self cooldowns. Shannox isn't the toughest boss in the Firelands, and we doubt your raid will have a lot of trouble getting him down. If you enjoyed this guide or found it helpful, make sure to bookmark us at LearntoRaid.com, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter and Justin TV. As always, we hope this guide was helpful, and we'll see you at the next boss.
I wasn't feeling so good. I just didn't feel like playing anymore. So I went home, and I got all comfy and cozy and all scrunched up in front of my phonograph. And I sat there